This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you are in the future because you're listening to Christina Gomez and Shifting the Paradigm.
Howdy, folks. This is Lou Elizondo, and you are listening to my very good friend Christina Gomez on Shifting the Paradigm.
This is Ray Sobbs from the UnX Network, and you're listening to Shifting the Paradigm with the intrepid Christina Gomez on the X.
You're listening to the UnX Network, KUNX-DB, Kansas City, Missouri.
Welcome to Shifting the Paradigm. I'm Christina Gomez on the Paradigm Shifts channel and on the X, the new mainstream KUNX Digital Broadcasting Talk Radio. Are you ready for this? Because we're about to embark on an hour and a half of UFO shenanigans and paranormal adventures. Right here is where we look and think outside the proverbial box. We jump down those rabbit holes where you get a red Tic Tac instead of a red pill. First off, make sure you subscribe and share these shows on social media to those who you think are having their minds and eyes open to the reality of the UFO mystery. All of these shows are great primers, and in the push for more clarity, transparency, and disclosure, the more voices demanding answers, the better. For those listening on KUNX Talk Radio and affiliates, I have 3 other shows each week that only air on my YouTube channel. The Unknown Zone airs every Monday at 10 a.m. PST. This Monday was on the mysteries of portals and wormholes. Thursdays is Mysteries with a History at 2:30 p.m. PST. And on Fridays at 3 p.m. PST is Weekly Strange News. So definitely check out my website at strangeparadigms.com for all show archives, more information, and direct video links to my channel. My guest today is Dave Schrader, host of podcast Paranormal 60 and TV personality of the new show Ghosts of Devil's Perch. Let's bring him in. Dave, welcome back. A lot of good stuff has happened to you since you were last on the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for having me back. I appreciate it.
You know what? The first conversation was so great. I wanted to have you back on again. And for those that haven't seen the first interview, the link is below in the description box. So we're just going to get right into it, Dave. You ready?
Sure. Yeah, let's do this.
Your newest TV show, Ghosts of Devil's Perch, just finished airing not too long ago. For those that aren't familiar with the show, what is it about and how does it differ from the Holzer Files?
Great questions. The Holzer Files, we were following in the footsteps of a legendary paranormal investigator, Hans Holzer. And Dr. Holzer's written over 140 books on all aspects of the paranormal. He had thousands of case files that he personally investigated of claims of supernatural presence and everything from ghosts to witches to monsters and so on. So we were re-examining those original case files with his recordings, his notes, photographs, videotapes. We did 2 seasons, 23 episodes of the Holzer Files. And then I was asked to join the 4th season of Ghosts of series with Cindy Kaza, who is the medium that I work with over on the Holzer Files. And Cindy and I joined up because in season 1 and 2, Nick Groff and Elizabeth Saint and their team were contacted by Shepherdstown and talked about the fact that this town was having a lot of paranormal issues. They did 2 seasons there, and Morgan City, Louisiana, contacted the network and said, we're having a lot of problems. So they put up a new team, and that was Ben Hansen and Sarah Lemos, Katie Stafford, Jeremy Leonard. They went to Morgan City to try to deal with the supernatural. And then COVID hit for a couple of years and took the show off the air. And in that time, there's been a lot of cities around the world that have been asking for help, and Butte, Montana stepped up, and they happen to have quite a bit going on in a historic district, and we decided to help them out. We've got the mayor and the chief of police, Sheriff Lester, that needed our help to come in and try to understand what was taking place in their city. So the difference is, in this one, we're being called into a town to deal with a very real supernatural problem that was building. And they've got all of this activity taking place in this extremely historic and haunted town. And they're doing revamping and revitalization projects. So they're digging things up and resurfacing buildings and sidewalks and everything. So I think that was just stirring up a cocktail of supernatural goodness. And Cindy, myself, and Katie Stafford went in to try to see what we could do to bring some peace and understanding to the spirits and the people there in Butte, Montana.
And how does that work when a town asks for help when dealing with the paranormal? Do they like fill out a form with the investigators or a TV show? Like, how does that work?
You know, I'm not even 100% sure. I just know that they reached out to the production company, and the production company looked logistically at what would make sense for us and where we could get in and maybe not be interfered with. You know, it's as you know, you go out to Los Angeles, a million permits to be in all the places we've been in, and there's constant traffic and life is always moving. Butte was a little easier because it folds up at night, and it was easier to get access to these locations. So it made sense, especially coming off of COVID, to go to a town that was kind of set apart from the rest of the world. It's its own little world within a world, and it was amazing. I think that, you know, although we dealt with a lot of the issue that was going on there, I believe we could easily go back for another season because there's stories in every building.
Can we expect another season?
Fingers crossed. I don't know. That's the magic of TV. You know, you go, you hope to God that things are going to work out. And we did our best for the town. They loved us. I flew out to Butte for the season finale, and they had a big screening of it in the local theater there at the Mother Lode Theater, and hundreds of people showed up and supported me and supported the show and supported their community by being there for that. And it was great. They would love to see us come back. I would love to come back. Now it's just up to the network to see if they're ready to bring us back.
Something that you've looked into in the show and from your research are scratch marks and inflicted pain allegedly caused by ghosts. How, in your opinion, is something like that even possible, where a ghost that has no physical body interacts on this physical plane and harms people?
Here's what we have to consider, right? Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not physical. Are there things here that are just slightly out of phase? The physicality of it is somewhat there, but the visual perspective is just not in a realm we can see it. And that's a concept that we do have to deal with and consider when we face these situations. I've always been kind of a skeptic when it comes to the scratches, because I know the fallibility of people, and we're always touching ourselves and scratching and don't even realize it. And then you look down, where the heck did those 3 scratch marks come from on my arm? And I've always been in the mindset, if it's a demon, you're going to have more than 3 little scratches across your arm. Something's going to vivisect you. And that's what we saw in our first episode of Ghosts of Devil's Perch. Taylor was at the Hennessy Mansion dealing with something that was going on there, and she was attacked in the bathroom, and it looked like literally a bear claw tore her open. The paramedics, the police, everybody was just astonished by the damage that was done. And, you know, that was unnerving. So again, could it be something just slightly out of visual phase, but exists or coexists with us? Is it a psychic scar? Are they able to somehow impact and affect the psychic connection with humans? Because there have been cases of people that are dealing with mental issues and multiple personality disorders. And in some of these disorders, a person has a scar that suddenly is there when they're using that personality, or they're diabetic when they're in that personality. So is it finding some way to mentally afflict you with something that physically then takes form? That's something that I think Dr. William Roll, Dr. Barry Taff, and quite a few others have examined throughout history, is what exactly is taking place, and is the psychological effect of the supernatural affecting us physically.
That is a really interesting point to make. And I would like to mention, for those that haven't seen the first episode, those scratch marks are brutal looking.
Yeah.
They are deep, they are red, they almost look bloody in a sense. And it makes you question, let's say it was a ghost, how strong would they have to be, or what emotions would they have to carry to create something like that? Or was it a different entity altogether? What do you think about that now?
You know, we believe we kind of brought it down, boiled it down to what we were dealing with, which was a very upset spirit that was there dealing with a lot of loss from life. You know, he had everything that he worked so hard for stripped away from him. And because of his obsession, it cost him his family, it cost him his friends, it cost him his life. And we think that this guy's angry soul, this fractal of who he once was what was lashing out. And we're hoping we were able to help communicate that and reconnect the spirit of this gentleman with his wife, Amy, that, Ferdinand Van Zandt and Amy Van Zandt, hopefully try to bring them back together so that he could find peace now in the afterlife. And they've told us everything settled down in the Hennessy Mansion after we addressed that and acknowledged the spirit. So is there something else behind it? Was there something darker or more malevolent that lashed out to get our attention so that we could deal with that ghost because he wasn't strong or powerful enough to get his own message across? It's really hard to say. It's a guessing game because it's not always just, you're not just looking directly at something. It's always kind of like a kaleidoscope of stories and history. And your job is to try to pull it into focus as much as you can. And hopefully with the help of the spirits to do that with what they're pointing you to and the EVP, the electronic voice phenomena, and different aspects that they allow to come through.
Well, you had a rather personal experience in episode 2 where you fell to the floor in pain, clutching your stomach. What happened, and have your perceptions changed from that moment it happened to you until now?
Well, to give a little background on that, I had done a special earlier in the year called The Curse of Lizzie Borden that airs on Travel Channel and Discovery Plus app. And we had gone back to investigate the Lizzie Borden house, hoping to find some answers and put to bed some of the weird theories and concepts that were bandied about. And during the finale of that, we were doing a live seance in Lizzie Borden's room. Pardon me. Unbeknownst to me, Chris Fleming, the medium that I work with, had wanted the spirits to make themselves known through me. So he opened me up kind of as a channel during the seance, and I began automatic writing, which was something I was not prepared to do, did not know was going to happen. And I really kind of fought it through that, but it opened me up in a way I'd never been opened before. And I'd never really learned how to close it down or shut down the sensitivity. So, a few months later, I'm in Butte, Montana, filming this series, and I walked into what we believe is a place memory. This spirit of Richard Sims, who had been brutally shot right in that area. I knew nothing about it at the time. All I know is that as we were just there doing a baseline investigation, just trying to get some basic information from Cindy, tapping in as a medium, it felt like something just exploded right under my rib cage. I thought I was having a heart attack or that I had ruptured my appendix, and it drove me to the floor screaming. They got me out. I ended up going to the hospital. The doctors could find absolutely nothing wrong with me. And for a guy my size and age, they were surprised. They thought I was close to checking out as well. And everything calmed down once I got out of that area. I took a couple days off. Our director filled in for me on the episode until the night of the main investigation. And even then, I took it easy. I stayed in the RV. I went to go in at one point, and the spirits were getting a little volatile. And Cindy warned me, I think you're still too raw and open. Stay in the RV. And I went, and that's where I kept an eye on things for the entire night during the investigation, while Cindy and Katie Stafford, the tech, went in and did their full investigation, trying to help put these spirits that were upset to rest.
Do you think you were at the wrong place at the wrong time, or did this person want you to feel what he felt right before he passed?
Yes, and yes. I think a little bit of both. But people are always like, oh my God, the spirits are picking on you. I truly, and maybe it's just my own mentality, I've got to look at it as a gift. this spirit chose me to show something, to reveal something to. And as painful as it is, I was able to take it, but it opened me up and allowed me into that moment. I mean, this Richard Sims, this young African-American male, had his only real crime was having fallen in love with the white preacher's daughter, and she fell in love with him until she wasn't. And then when she decided it was time to break things up and he was trying to plead to her to stay together, she shot him. It was easy. She just pulled the trigger and made a deal out of it, and the courts ran her through quickly. And, well, you know, she was a young little white girl, and this big African-American guy was intimidated. She was doing what she had to do to protect herself, and his story was buried from that point forward. And it's really a shame, because he did nothing wrong other than falling in love with somebody who told him that she loved him as well. And for that, he got shot. So I find it a gift that I'm given to be able to connect in that way. It's frightening and it's concerning at the time, but it also gives a little bit of that. I kind of feel like I know what he went through in those last few moments, and that, you know, that says something when it comes to what we do in this field. I don't take the job lightly, because it is impactful in many ways.
Has there ever been a case like that where pain was afflicted with the residual haunting, or is it only with interactive or intelligent hauntings? And it sounds kind of like an odd question, but I asked this because I was thinking, like, what if in the residual haunting, a person is just in the wrong place at the wrong time and gets afflicted by this entity that's in a time loop?
And that may have been what I did. I was open, sensitive wise. I was open to that. And maybe Cindy Kaza, talking about this moment and starting to see it, maybe just that expulsion of energy is what hit me. And it might not have been a direct, oh, there's Dave Schrader, he's open to this, let me show him. I might just be, the ego kicks in at that point. I'd like to think that they chose me for that. It just may be I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But like I said, to keep my mind from snapping and feeling like I'm getting picked on or bullied by the spirit realm, I like to prefer to believe that I'm part of this mix and that they chose me to do this because I could handle the story and deliver it. But who knows for certain? I don't know. Either way, it's unnerving and weird. And there have been a few times where something like that has happened, and I really wonder, do I want to continue doing this? And then once I settle down and I get out of that headspace, this is what I love to do. I love to be able to help bring history alive, share that with people all over the world, and be the voice for the spirits that lost their story. And I think that's important.
A little bit earlier, you mentioned automated writing. Is that the same thing as spirit writing, before I continue?
I don't know what your definition of spirit writing is, but basically Cindy does it a lot. Cindy Kaza on Ghosts of Devil's Perch and on Holzer Files. She'll open herself up with a pad of paper and a pen, and then she just kind of allows the spirit to work through her to write these things. And she calls it automatic writing. That's how I know it. That could be spirit writing as well. I also know that there's some where they would leave a pen with a pad of paper, come back, and there'd be messages scrawled out. So I don't know if that's more spirit writing and this is channeling or what, but this is a form of channeling, allowing the spirit to work through you. And when it happened to me on the Lizzie Borden show, it was so odd. It's like when your arm falls asleep and you're trying to lift it and you get no response. You're like, this doesn't even feel like it's a part of me anymore. And you can't get it. And then finally, as the life starts coming back into the arm, you can move it. That's kind of how I felt. But there, my arm was writing and kind of bucking and shucking as it was trying to get this message out. And I was fighting it the whole time because it was just so unnerving. I don't understand how people allow that are spiritualists and mediums, but good for them. Not so great for me. I did not like that feeling.
So when it comes to automated writing, because I'm not familiar with this, does it mean that, like, you're just not in control of your arm, but you are still in control of your thoughts? How does that work?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking anything. All I was thinking is, what the hell is happening? Why is this happening? What can I do to stop this? And the messages came out. She was tired of the lies. No more lies. She kept writing. Lisbeth was very upset with all of the stories that have been bandied about. And I don't know if that's because she truly believes herself to be innocent, or if this fractal of her that remains there is did she snap? There was a lot of thoughts on maybe this woman was abused through her life. They had a very strange family. I mean, they lived with their mother and father well into adulthood, and their bedrooms were legitimately right around their father's room. So there was no space for them. There was nothing. And there's been talk that maybe there was inappropriate behavior between the father and the daughters. But again, this is all subjective, and I hate posting a spotlight on somebody that can't come back and say for themselves what actually took place. That's why I think it's important to try to get to the answers of the real history that we can uncover. And if the spirits are trying to make that known to me, and she kept saying so many lies, no more lies. She was really adamant about that.
Dave, can you attribute ghost or entity hotspots as originating with some kind of portal that allows them to have more access to the physical dimension? And if so, how do you identify a ghost dimension portal?
The term, I'm sorry, suddenly you bring up portals and my dog starts going mad. A portal is kind of a generic basic term, right? And it's impossible for me to see. I can't see, like, behind me. I can't see this white light that is opened up to let me know that there are spirits traversing. I think there's a lot more, like, here, let me see if I've got this book. All right. So you've got a booklet, right? And there's a top and a bottom, and the top is the beginning of history. Every page in between is how history plays out. The last page is when the world just explodes. The place I'm sitting in right now has always existed. And each page tells its own story. And I just wonder if sometimes through, time slip phenomena, we're not running more into that. It's not so much a portal as it's a thinning of the veil in that general vicinity that only happens once in a blue moon. But you're able to hear, see, and witness things that may be from the past or perhaps even your upcoming future. It's impossible to tell directly where the phenomena comes from. It all exists, but are we getting pinged from the future, pinged from the past? I've told this story. I'll share it with you. We had a listener who said, my grandmother and grandfather bought this piece of property. It was a cornfield, not ancient Indian burial grounds. No war was fought here. Nobody died there that we knew of. They built this house. Everything's fine. 30, 35 years in, grandma's sitting in her recliner in the living room watching Jeopardy, and in walk these three shadowy figures that stop in front of her and then turn and run out of the room. Now grandma's house is haunted, and everybody talks about the weird experience. Grandma's not crazy. She's not senile. She's very with it, and she's talking about this strange experience. And then grandma passed away. And a few years later, this guy and his two buddies walk into the house, walk in the living room, and there's grandma sitting in the recliner. And the three of them stop and look at each other and then turn around and run out. And then he thought to himself, my God, this is exactly what my grandmother described. So that's what I think. Is it a portal? Is it a thinning of the veil? Is it a moment when time and space come together and we're able to see through those? Who was haunting who? Was he really seeing the ghost of his dead grandmother, or was she seeing the future that had yet to make its appearance?
It's almost as if time is stackable, right? You have the past, the present, and the future. Maybe you're possibly able to see through that in instances such as this story. Now, usually when people talk about ghost activity, or when you speak to the majority of ghost investigators, they don't talk about this stuff, that maybe you could potentially be seeing the future. That makes you question, how is that even possible? But it seems like for the most part, people don't really have answers to that question just yet. But Dave, we are coming towards a break. We'll be right back.
Sure.
Gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, The X.
This is Micah Hanks of the Micah Hanks program right here on KUNX. And right now, you're having your paradigm shifted by the one and only Christina Gomez.
Source for alternative talk radio on the internet. The X.
Howdy, folks. This is Lou Elizondo, and you are listening to my very good friend Christina Gomez on Shifting the Paradigm.
Do you have an interest in the paranormal? Then you'll love the UnXNetwork.com. The X is your streaming audio and video for everything supernatural, strange, and mysterious, like UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and so much more. From hosts like Jimmy Church, Whitley Strieber, Micah Hanks, and Christina Gomez. Visit the UnXNetwork.com show page for a complete list of all the paranormal programs you'll find on the X. Be sure to follow us on Twitter for updates at KUNXDB. Follow our Facebook group, UnX Network. Find the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, Audible, and Apple Podcast. It's time.
It's new.
It's the X.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Explaining
the unexplained.
The new UnXNetwork.com.
Hi. This is Race Hobbs, head of programming at the new UnX Network, and you're locked on
Shifting the Paradigm
with the intrepid Christina Gomez on
the
X.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you are in the future because you're listening to Christina Gomez and Shifting the Paradigm.
I'm gonna chase it, and I'm gonna chase it. I know we can't ignore it, no matter how hard we try. And I'm gonna chase it, and I'm gonna chase it. I know we can't ignore it, no matter how hard we try. Fire in the veins, I fight to gain, breaking all the rules to keep me sane.
Welcome back. With me today is Dave Schrader. Why do you think that basements, attics, sewage pipes, and these kinds of places are believed to be more haunted than others? What is it about these areas that potentially attract certain entities?
All right, great question. Let's look at it in a different way. And I've answered this before in a totally different way. So I'm going to give you a brand new answer because I like the cut of your jib, and I think we deserve to dig into it a little bit in a different way. Maybe attics and basements aren't more active, but because they're cut off from the rest of the hubbub of the day, you know, on the main floors of your house, you can hear through your windows, you can see things, there's dogs barking, lawn mowing going on, breeze happening. In the basement, you're kind of cut off and it's darker, so you can notice a light anomaly better. You might be able to hear things a little bit better down there. Maybe that's part of it. Up in the attic, again, you've got this area that's kind of cut off from the rest of the house, maybe insulation layers down that are kind of keeping it a little bit more soundproof. So you're more apt to see or witness or hear things in that environment. And it may be just as active as the main floor of your house, but because there are so many other distractions, you don't notice it. That's why people always say, why do ghosts only show up at night? I think they're around you all day long, but because you've got so many other things distracting you, you don't notice it as you know, prominently. So that's part of it. Now, the other aspect we could be is considering is, you know, the basement of a house is set into the ground. And in the ground, there's limestone, granite, crystal, different things that could be working as a paranormal battery. You may have underwater currents underneath the house from well water, from well springs. And then a lot of basements and attics are the places where wiring and piping goes to keep it out of the way of the main house. So maybe it's the rushing water through pipes that's creating a static charge, the unshielded wiring from years gone by, things like that are just charging and are more available as an energy source that allow these templates to kind of open and spirits to use that energy to be seen or heard. So that may be why the attic and basement seem a little bit more active, because of where they're set and what kind of energy is fed into those areas. Again, you know, all we can do is make our best theories and guesses on this. There's no specific answers. Physics and science has not taken this apart they haven't gone in and said, okay, we know this house is haunted, let's find out why. What they do is they go in and tell you why it wouldn't be haunted without actually, you know, taking the time to deconstruct the haunting and find out what may be causing it. It's very easy to say that high levels of EMF, electronic magnetic force, right, could be causing hallucinatory effect. We know that science tells us that, but could it also be stimulating the pineal gland and stimulating aspects of the brain that allow us to witness and see things that normally would not be seen? All we can do is theorize in these situations and take things into consideration, and then learn to start building parameters around test examples that we can, you know, with the God helmet and things. If one person is seeing these things, if I hook two people up, theoretically, they should be seeing independent things. If they're both witnessing the exact same thing, then that would tell me that at this many hertz, at this level of energy, you're opening them up to see in this realm. And if they're both in that realm, then they theoretically should be seeing the exact same thing, not two totally different layers. If it's two totally different things, then that would tell me it's causing more of a hallucinatory effect that's a singular sensation for the person experiencing it, as opposed to a paranormal situation, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And a lot of people talk about that quartz, limestone, running water, things like this. It charges, or at least helps entities, you know, form, move things around and stuff like this. How does that work? I hear it a lot, but I don't ever hear the explanation for it.
It's theory. Okay, the piezoelectric phenomena, which we know is rocks that are under much pressure, they do release energy. That we know scientifically. So the concept is that if this house is built on a place that's heavy in lime and quartz and limestone, and that pressure is there, and maybe you're near tectonic plates, or, you know, there's something about it, and the level of water is not far below you. You know, we know water creates energy, and we know that the pressing of these rocks causing the piezoelectric phenomena is causing energy. So again, we're theorizing, just like we do when we go into a haunted location and I've got my camera, brand new batteries, and the camera goes dead within 5 minutes. And I know I've got an hour charge or longer, and it just goes dead. And then we walk outside, and as soon as we remove ourselves from that, the battery life comes back. we want to ascribe the fact that the reason the battery dropped was because of a paranormal entity feeding off of it. And I've thought, well, then if that's the case, let's drop 2 car batteries in a house with some copper wiring off of it to give them something to siphon and some energy to draw from, instead of a couple of AAA batteries, which aren't going to feed them very long. And there have been a few paranormal teams that have done that and claim to get better results, changing the parameters of the location. The problem I find, though, is when you start changing the parameters of how hauntings are reported, you have to then question what exactly it is that we're stimulating there. And I say that because a lot of people will go into a haunted location, they black out the windows and they turn off all the power, and they change how people experience it. If I know that grandma always sees 3 shadowy figures during Jeopardy, and the window's open and Jeopardy's on and it's balmy 60s degree weather, I want to investigate on a balmy 60-degree day in that house, in that spot, the way she would witness it, not changing the parameters of the experiment. And that's what a lot of investigators do, is shift the dynamic of when and where. And we've investigated in day and evening hours in the Holzer Files, and on Ghosts of Devil's Perch, and on The Curse of Lizzie Borden. We're trying to see different times of day or night what actually works better. And if they tell me 3 o'clock in the afternoon is when we have experiences, we'll be there at 3 in the afternoon. It's not as dynamic looking for TV, because we're not in that creepy night vision with that, giving you that false sense of confinement. But, if we're able to get stuff there during the day and night, that tells us more about the haunting particularly.
That is really important information, and I'm really glad that you mentioned that for those that are aspiring to be paranormal investigators. Keep the environment the way that it is. Don't change it. Don't touch anything. Just go with the flow in this aspect.
And sometimes, like Christina, if you're in the location, you're telling me this only happens when I'm around, then why am I asking you to leave and let me go in? I would like to be in there investigating, watching you, maybe setting up cameras, being in a different room so that I'm not there altering the experiment. I'm allowing you to be in your natural environment as you experience these things. Then they talk about the double-blind slit theory, right, where the particles and protons that are being shot through it do a certain thing until we look at them, and then they do different things. Does us watching change the parameters of how things unfold? I wish we could, we're so far into this, and people have been investigating the paranormal since the 1800s. Nobody's got a firm grasp on it. Mediums will tell you ABC, this is how it works, but I can talk to one who tells me ABC, the other one tells me XYZ. It's theory. But what we do is the best way is take those theories and put them to the test. Is this real? Can we replicate this? And if we can replicate it and create something that gives us information outside of the realm of our own knowledge, that's when it starts to pay off. But until we can get people that really want to look more into the science aspect of the paranormal and start to change and test those paradigms, I don't think we're going to see any further growth. We're always building new equipment.
Right.
But is it any better than what we had in the past? Is it really making communication easier? Or is it just the new light up, glowy, blinky, flashy thing so that I've got something new, glowy, blinky, and flashy on TV that you don't? I don't know. Some things I've said, I don't want to use that tool. I've watched the tool come to life all of a sudden, and now I'm interested. Spirit boxes, it's a broken radio. It's so fallible. It's so stupid. It shouldn't work. And then when all of a sudden I start asking questions, and I'm sitting here alone in my house with my spirit box on, you're on the other side of that computer screen, and I say, Spirit, can you tell me who I'm speaking to? And you hear Christina Gomez. It's hard to throw that out. Now, it's also easy to say, did I hear a noise that hit the same rhythm and beat? So I'm going to accept it. That's what we call pareidolia. But if I can hear it, you can hear it, and I can play it in a room of people and they hear it without me telling who I was talking to, then we're onto something. And I've had that kind of phenomena take place. We were out at Joliet State Prison in Joliet, Illinois this summer, and one night it was hopping in the cafeteria. We were getting all kinds of shadow figures and footsteps and noises, and EVP the second night, nothing, just a few little rappings and tappings. And I thanked them, and I had the spirit box going, nothing comes through. And I go, hey, we're about to leave. Is there anything you want me to tell the next group? And very clearly the spirit box goes, no, thanks. And that was the end of the conversation. No, thanks. As I ask a question, is there anything you want me to tell the next group? And the only answer, that's an immediate response to a direct question. That starts to show me there's something intelligent there.
At least that entity was polite. No,
right.
thanks.
No, thanks. And it sounded
cute.
feminine, too. It was very, no, thanks. Instead of being a burly prisoner, I would have thought would have been the one coming through to us.
Now, in a lot of investigations that you do, you talk to the ghosts, sometimes talking to them about their past and telling them to move on. In your opinion, how is sound able to transfer from the two planes of existence?
Well, in a lot of cases, we get DVP, that's direct voice phenomena. That's where we're hearing things out loud, a cry, a voice, a word, and we also capture it. And Christina, we've had some really interesting points where we've heard it. A group of us heard a word out loud, and we play back the recording, and it's not on the recording. And then you've got EVP, where we say things out loud, get no response, and play back the recording, and there's an answer. So I don't really understand how that's happening, but again, maybe just in that moment, that portal was open, that veil, and we were able to hear each other directly without the aid of electronics. I've asked, when I was in Joliet prison, again, I was in one of the prison cells that used to be Richard Speck, very horrible killer. And I said, I'm just curious, Spirit, can you see me or do you just hear me? And very clearly the answer came out, both. And in some, I hear them just say, I can see you, or I can hear you. So I just, to them, and it's interesting. Am I really talking to the ghost of Richard Speck, or am I talking to a paranormal investigator 20 years ago, or a paranormal investigator 30 years from now, who's in that cell sharing the same space, same time, things just happen to line up, and we're communicating through that little window. The DVP certainly is a much more powerful form, because when you can hear it out loud, as if somebody's in the room with you. As we started this conversation, are things truly not there, or are they there and just outside of our visible spectrum? Are they there just slightly out of phase of our audible spectrum? I'm not sure. I've been in places where I've had both. Joliet Prison, I don't mean to keep going back to it, but it is one of those places that I've heard so much about, and they film TV shows and movies there. And a lot of actors and production companies have said, we don't like being in there at night because things are weird. Things get creepy. So you go with this preconceived notion that maybe they're just overreacting. And then we started hearing out loud phenomena. At one point, we were outside of one of the cell blocks, and I was standing there with my son, and we were waiting for our group to show up so we could take him in. And as we're standing out front, my son just kind of whistles, and he was doing the whistle from The Walking Dead, Negan's whistle, the kind of, and he did that a few times, and all of a sudden, very clearly inside the jail, inside the prison, we start just hearing like somebody's whistling. And I go, oh, did they get in there without us seeing? And my son runs into the building, comes flying out. He goes, there's nobody there. There's nobody in there. We out loud heard that whistle. Then the group finally shows up. We take them into the building, and we're standing there, and we're kind of talking about what just happened. And all of a sudden, the security guard that's with the group goes, shh, shh, and shuts everybody down. And he grabs his radio, and he goes, I can hear talking upstairs. Somebody got in upstairs. Send security. Because, being a location like this, we don't know if somebody's broken into the location. So security comes, converges. They do a sweep. There's nobody there. They leave. He tells us, as you guys were over here talking, I could hear talking coming from upstairs because I'm standing right by that door frame. There was nobody there. And as soon as he stopped saying that, right above our head on the walkway, shing, 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 you could very clearly hear footsteps walking over us like the guards would have done at night. And the guards would have been the ones whistling at night too, irritating the prisoners, just kind of getting under their skin, keeping them so they're not sleeping real soundly. They didn't care at the point, at the time that it was an active prison. You had a bunch of ne'er-do-wells and gangbangers and murderers and problem people in there. So they would that was their jollies, whistling at night and making a lot of racket. And we were listening to it. We could hear it. And we were getting voice phenomena. And it was very strange, but it totally lived up to its hype. And as a matter of fact, so much so, Shane Pittman from the Holzer Files and the new TV show 28 Days Haunted, we're going back this May, and we're taking our listeners with. So if you're interested, you can go to darknessevents.com. That's darknessevents.com. And you'll see all the different places I'm going to be visiting. And I'm going to Egypt this year, and Germany and Prague. And I'm going to be doing the Joliet State Prison, Michigan Paracon, all these great places. You can find out where you can meet me, see me, hang out with me. And in the case of Joliet Prison, where you can go investigate with us. But we did 2 events last year, and each event was off the hook. It was amazing.
That sounds really exciting. And the fact that you're also going to be traveling the world this upcoming year is also very cool, talking to listeners and fans. I'm excited for you, Dave.
I think you got to come out and join us for Joliet State Prison. I think you talk about shifting the paradigm. Wait till you put yourself into a place like this where you hear all this hype and you're like, there's no possible way. And then you start hearing footsteps and talking and banging and yells and voices and EVP directly communicating back with you. It'll blow you away. My dad came with. He lives in Illinois, and he's always kind of and I play back the EVP. I go, did you hear that? And he's like, yeah, I heard that. So even my dad, who's on the skeptical side, he was kind of like, that's crazy. This place is nuts. But what's it going to take to get you out there with us?
Well, I am planning on getting a motorhome and traveling the United States and hitting all the weird hot spots, have it be UFO and paranormal. But that won't be until about next year. So if that invitation is still open, when I get the motorhome, I will be stopping by. Checking out.
You're allowed to travel even when you don't have a motorhome.
I know, but see, I'm still in university, so I'm waiting till I graduate to go ahead and really start traveling, because my schedule right now is so intense with doing 4 shows a week plus school plus work.
Sure, I got you.
It's hard to travel. But is it as easy as telling a ghost to cross over and to not bother the home or location anymore? Or is it more complex than that, than just talking to them?
Again, theories, I had a hard time believing we could pray them away. What gives me that power? What makes me think that I'm the guy that's going to be able to pray these things into the next realm? But I've had them call out and ask for prayer. So I follow that line. And if that's what the spirits are telling me and that's what they want, I'll do my best to deliver it. I think sometimes spirits, they're us just in a different form. And I don't think they intend to scare. They're going about their business, walking around the house. It just freaks you out because nobody else is there. So sometimes in speaking out loud, please, you're scaring me. You're making me uncomfortable in my own home. You died. This is my place. I think sometimes the spirits fade back and they will leave you alone. I also think that there's sarcastic, silly ghosts out there. I've already said, listen, I've got 11 kids, Christina, 11 kids. So I plan on checking out and staying around anyway, because I want to be here for my kids and my grandkids. So when my granddaughters are at some makeout party playing with the Ouija board and they ask, who's going to die first? I'm going to be the one pushing the planchette to their boyfriend. So ghosts just might be toying with you, playing with you. I don't try to walk in a place of fear. So I think that it's, being open, respectful to spirits, being kind, showing them that you're going to get some playful spirits, but I think for the most part, yes, just telling spirits to leave. A lot of times that is enough, because then they realize the effect and impact they're having on you. But you're familiar with Bobby Mackey's Music World, right?
Yes.
We were at Bobby Mackey's, and very haunted, very dark energy, or so I've been told there. I've always had a decent time when I've been there. Nothing super negative. But it was at the end of the night, and a group of my friends were down in the basement. I was ushering everybody else out of the building as our private, our public event was ended. And I said, all right, I'll be back. You guys can finish up down here. And I walked away. And as I got to the door, I heard their spirit box go, Schrader. I stopped, and I'm like, did I just hear that? And then it goes, Schrader. And my friends go, I think it's calling for you. So I turn back around, I walk over and I go, I'm Dave Schrader. What can I do for you? The only other word that came out was pray. So I'm not necessarily a holy guy. I mean, I've got a religious base in my life and I have a healthy relationship with God and I'm fine with it. I looked at everybody and go, you want to pray? Yeah. So we all held hands and we did a prayer. And during the entire time, not one word is coming out of the spirit box, not one. And then I finish, and you don't see the shaft of light come down and Patrick Swayze wave goodbye and disappear into the light. So there's no way to know if it worked. And then I just said, I hope that helped. I hope that was what you were seeking. And the only other word that came through was joy. And then the radio was silent for the rest of the night. So does it work? It doesn't hurt. So I'm always willing to put that out there. Now, there are people that go in and stir things up and they demand and you on the name of this and in the name of that, get out of here and blah, 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 blah. And some spirits dig their heels in. They don't like being treated disrespectful. They don't like being yelled at. They don't like being screamed at. And, you know, it's like the old trope with Dracula. You can hold up a crucifix to him, but if you have no faith in what the crucifix represents, it doesn't work. You know, the sign is not what offends him. It's the belief behind it. And I think that's the way it is with spirits. And I know that I understand Dracula's a member of fiction, but the concept of belief in the item, I think, is what works. Just like incense or using white sage to smudge. I think it only works if you believe it works.
And as the saying goes, treat others how you want to be treated. It extends past just the living, just humans.
Yes.
It can go far beyond that, including spirits and other types of entities. So I think it's rather interesting that in this story that you mentioned, you did what you were asked by this entity. And then after you were finished, this entity was happy. He expressed, she expressed joy. And that's what's really interesting with EVPs is that sometimes you get just direct communication. Other times, to my understanding, they can be somewhat delayed. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Where you ask a question, you don't get that answer until minutes, hours, sometimes longer than that, much later.
Time, they say time is irrelevant on the other side. And when are they really getting the message? And how long does it take them to muster the energy to be heard through the veil? That's why, again, I don't jump to things being evil all the time. And sometimes I'll get an EVP where I'm like, you know, is there someone here that would like to communicate? And I play back the EVP and you hear, yes! And you think, ooh, geez, that sounded mad. Well, is it mad or is it something just out of phase that's trying to be heard? And he's been talking to you all night and you haven't heard him. And now he's stepping up his game and he's yelling so that he's trying to be heard through the veil. So I don't know, that's just another concept to go with. Like I said, it's all of it's theory. It's conjecture and theory. And we just try it out and see what works. And, you know, working my way through, Joliet prison or working my way through Butte, Montana, the respect for the spirits, even in the face of very frightening moments, you know, it would have been very easy to run away, very easy to not take into account the spirit is hurting and they're lashing out and they want to be heard. They want to be witnessed again and not forgotten. And they're demanding. So it's almost like a child. Sometimes you have to stop and go, okay, honey, I'm here. I'm listening with you now. What do you want to tell me? You don't have to act like this. And once it's don't forget me. Don't forget who I am. Don't forget my story. And then we do our best to try to propagate that and keep that story going so that now the world knows about these ghosts. And a lot of the locations, as soon as we start putting the word out and it spreads, they kind of disappear. So something must be working, right? I mean, we're helping out. We did as we promised. We told it to a national and then an international audience around the world that now knows the story of this person and what really happened. And I think that sometimes, like in life, you know, the dead and the living have one thing in common. We all want to be acknowledged and we all want to feel like we were here for a reason. And it wasn't just to be shot by an angry lover or this, that, or the other. There's so much more to who we are than the one moment that may have robbed us of our life.
I'm really happy you brought that up because you answered the question that I was going to ask. Why do these entities want to be remembered? But you went ahead and gave a beautiful answer.
Sorry. There I go, psychically jumping ahead on you, Christina.
Hey, great minds think alike, Dave.
Exactly.
But we are coming towards another break. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
Gigawatt paranormal powerhouse, KUNX-DB, The X.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you are in the future because you're listening to Christina Gomez and Shifting the Paradigm.
I want to thank all of you for listening to The X. But did you know you can watch live streaming video and catch your favorite video casts on the UNX Network YouTube channel?
Wow, you mean I can watch the X shows anytime?
That's right. Watch any show, anytime, even binge watch your favorite programs.
Which shows are on the UNX Network YouTube channel?
You can watch Most Haunted with Dan Terry, Entity Voices, Paranormal Evidence, Paranormally Blonde, and Unexplained Phenomena Australia, and many more. Also, be sure and catch live coverage of special events and special broadcasts from the UNX Network.
That's great. I'm going to subscribe to the UNX Network channel right now.
Awesome. You can find everything you need to know about the YouTube channel at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for everything unexplained. It's the new mainstream. It's the UNX Network.
Explaining
the unexplained.
The new unxnetwork.com.
Are you ready to read about true paranormal events? UNX Media publishes nonfiction books about UFOs, ghosts and haunted places, time anomalies, cryptid creatures, and more. Just like KUNX-DB Radio, it's all about unexplained phenomena. Visit www.unxmedia.com to see our list of great book titles by Debbie Ziegelmeyer, Gene Walker, Devin Listrom, Wayne Lawrence, Bill Spicer, and yours truly, Margie Kay. That's unxmedia.com.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit unitedgoldgroup.com.
think we should fear the dead?
I fear the living. And I know that sounds trite, but I think once we've left this mortal coil, the spirit, it still wants to be acknowledged and heard, the ones that stay here. I'm more afraid of the living people I come into contact with, because you don't know what their agenda is. With the spirit realm, usually there's some unfinished business or acknowledgement that it needs. That's, to me, easier to deal with. And even in a scary situation, I can help it out. You don't know what people are going to do. That's a lot more terrifying to me than the spirit realm. Does it mean that there aren't dangers? No, I think there are. Listen, most of the people I know that are truly entrenched in the paranormal field, and this might be a topic you want to dig into in the future, we deal with depression and anxiety. So it leads one to wonder, is depression and anxiety a mental disorder that opens us up to be more open to the supernatural and the paranormal? Or do the supernatural and the paranormal create this depression and anxiety? Do they feed off of one another? Are they a symbiotic creation? And I'm not saying feel sorry for me. It's just, we steep ourselves in these stories and in these histories, and sometimes it's hard to shake. It's like having a good friend that you care for, you love, they're on a destructive path, and you do all you can to try to steer them, and they just keep going on that path, and it leaves you feeling emotionally drained, even though it's not your life. It's not your story. You're watching it play out, and because you have a vested interest, it can be taxing. And I think that happens. I'll tell you, in all honesty right now, right? Here, I just come off of 3 successful series with Holzer Files, 2 seasons, and Ghost of Devil's Perch. I've got a show, a podcast that's has done really well. I was one of the original paranormal podcasters out in 2006 when there were only 5 of our shows that existed, and I still am kicking. I have a lot to be thankful for. Good family, good friends, jobs I love to do, but I'm still afflicted by depression and anxiety, and some of it probably has to do with what I put myself into and into some of these bloody histories and stories. And you wouldn't be human to not have it take a toll on you. That's why I have to take sometimes weeks off, maybe even a month, from doing anything paranormal other than chatting about it, because it starts to kind of whittle away at your own soul. So, I know it's a strange answer for that question, but I think that, there's a lot to consider in this. Is there truly evil spirits? Is there good spirits? Is it just a spirit and they're having a bad day? And I think maybe if we're in that zone where we're communicating, we would be influenced perhaps by their energy. So I do my best to try to shield. I wear a lot of different necklaces, pendants, bracelets, crystals, things like that to try to help balance me. And again, because I've been told how well they work by practitioners of metaphysics and Native American tribes, people that have talked to me about these different elements, and I do my best to keep it out. And I hope that it works. And maybe that's why my depression and anxiety are there and then gone, because I have learned to ground myself. This field is not for the lighthearted, and it's not for the, to take with a grain of salt. I firmly believe when people ask me, I want to get into this, what should I do? I say, learn your history, learn to study, learn to research. That's the first foremost thing. Then start taking mediumship classes. But I'm not a medium. You don't have to be. You need to understand what it's like to actually communicate with spirit. You need to know what it's like to tap into that realm. And you don't have to be a psychic or a medium, but it'll give you a better understanding of how they work and why we do it. There's so many different components into going into a paranormal investigation. I think it's important to walk through things properly, learning techniques, learning interviewing skills and ability, learning to, empathy, learning how to display empathy and not just for the living, but for the dead. I've never once believed that at the end of the TV show, I was there for the living. I'm glad that I could bring them peace. We were there for the dead. We were there for the spirits that needed to be heard and had a story. And by helping them, that should bring peace to the living.
So do you think with having depression and anxiety, do you think that maybe you're an empathic?
Yeah, I do. I think, but I hate that it seems like such a tree huggery everybody uses the word I'm an empath now. So I've always been cautious to not kind of throw myself under that bus. But I think we're all empathic. I think that's why people are so distressed right now. The world's a crazy place, and there's so much stress and pressure, and we allow it in. And I think everybody's empathic to a degree. It's just what level you allow it to control you. So I'm very, I try to be very cautious because I do have a wife and children, and I don't want to bring home that negativity to them. But, you put yourself into places where people were killed by the thousands in war or by disease like typhus or tuberculosis or the Black Plague. And there's still that psychic scar on that land of the Native Americans that were so brutally treated. I think, being human, we're already empathic. We have empathy. I think mine might be a little bit different. Sometimes I love going to conferences with all my heart. I love going and interacting with listeners and viewers of my shows, but it can wear you out. I can go and need a week to recharge because there's so much frenetic energy. Everybody brings so much to these conferences where there's thousands of people there. And if you're not learning to shield, which I'm trying to do, and I'm taking classes and I'm talking to people myself, it's never you've learned it all. You've always got to keep adjusting and learning so that you can make sure that you're taken care of and protected. Because if you're hurt and you're broken, you're of no good to the spirit realm or the humans. And that's why I always tell people, if you're in a bad place mentally, had a fight with your kids, your wife, your work, your buddy, that's not a good night to go investigate, because now you're not in the mindset of being clear. You've got a dent in the armor, and then something else can push on that and make it worse. So you really have to be at clarity and in a good headspace to go into these situations. And if you're not, you open yourself up for a spiritual butt kicking.
Overall, it sounds like you just need to be mindful with your day-to-day life because it affects everything that you do. Now, there have been some beliefs that some ghost children are in fact not children, but some type of demonic entity that changes into the form of a child to put people's guards down. Have you ever come across that? Or have all the children ghosts been children from your investigations?
Listen, I will tell you, having 11 children, the human ones can be just as demonic as the spiritual ones. They're evil children. I was always very unnerved by it. Again, coming from a Christian perspective, that's all I can speak as, and I'm not trying to push my theories or beliefs on anybody's thoughts. I had a really hard time believing my God would leave a child, an innocent spirit, stranded. Well, if they weren't baptized, I still don't buy into that. I believe that my God is a pretty loving, good person, good being, and would help those spirits find their way home. It was a couple of mediums, Jody Levon that I worked with, Chris Fleming, a couple of people like that, John J. Oliver, not the comedian, but the medium, that told me, we're dealing with children's spirits. They're probably not what you think. If we believe in reincarnation, which I do, then that incarnation may have been 10 years old when he died, but that spirit may be thousands of years old or hundreds of years old, and it's just holding the visage of what it was. So we think of it as a child. We also might be dealing with something called fractals, these soul fractals. People talk about the fact that in Grandma's childhood home, we see her as a child, but we know she died across the country at the age of 89, where we see her old lady ghost shuffling around the house. How is that possible? Well, if this was the place that she loved as a child, one, why couldn't she come back and visit that place too? And two, if you were brought there, maybe you take on the visage of the happiest moments in your life there. And that was being a child, carefree, no bills, playing hide and seek, family. Sounds great. And maybe we've just supplanted that location so much with that energy and joy and love or trauma that that's the piece that's there, that fractal of the person that suffered the trauma or suffered the great joy. And that little piece just remains like a butterfly flap. And then the same in the building that they died in. So there could be these coexisting hauntings, or the fact that our spirit can just traverse. And I've already set the goal that, Christina, when I die, you won't see me looking like this. You'll see me with my fluffy George Michael's hair, my earring in, and my torn blue jeans, and I'll look like I did in 1985, not like in 2023, right, or 2025. I'll try to go back to looking like I did when I was at my happiest and the most carefree part of my life. So why wouldn't other spirits do that as well? I like to say that to try to comfort myself. Do I believe that there are dark entities that take on that visage? Yes. And I warn people at my conventions and at my events, do not be stupid. If you think you're communicating with a child spirit, don't invite them to come home with you. You're not their mother. And I understand that your heart is big and your empathy is there. But if there is something darker that takes on this visage, knowing that you're going to open yourself to them. And I've watched full-grown women bend down or get down on their knees and talk to the air and say, it's okay. You can come home with me. I've got children. You've just given permission to whatever this thing is without seeing it, without knowing it, because you're just trying to be big-hearted and kind. Well, then if there is something dark, they know how to get to you through animals and children. And sometimes that's what we do. We invite these things into our life, and then you wonder why things go horribly wrong later. They're spirits. We pray for them while they're there. We pray to help release those spirits when we leave a location. Every place I go, I do a clearing prayer. But I never allow them to come home with me and never invite them home with me. And I think it's a really bad plan if you do, because again, it's like going on one of these dating apps, and instead of putting up your stats, you just put up your home address and phone number. Say, come on over. You don't know who's watching and what's going to come through.
In this case, or in any case, ignorance is not bliss. And I say that consistently because it seems to be the case every single time. You hear the saying, ignorance is bliss. It's the best. No, it is not.
Not when it comes to the paranormal, for sure. You don't want to be ignorant toward these things. You want to be respectful and realize that something could be taking on a different form just to get to you.
And that's where it's scary. That's where you're most vulnerable when dealing with children and cute little animals. Very specifically cats. Cats have a very special place in my heart. In episode 4, you speak to a paranormal witness, an older lady that called 911 after feeling something sit on her chest. She was not able to move or scream, and then she saw an entity. Is there a correlation between the incubus and succubus along with shadow people? Are they the same? Are they different? Is there a connection there?
First of all, we've got to look at the scientific principles of having those moments of sleep paralysis, because we do know physiologically that sleep paralysis is something that everybody goes through every night. The base of your brain pumps out this chemical to keep you in stasis, so that while I'm dreaming of fighting Rocky Balboa, I'm not punching my wife all night, right? It keeps that down and allows it to play out in your head, because the brain can't tell the difference between a real and a vividly imaginative experience. So it has to shut down the body for that. And what happens is you're sleeping, you're having a great dream, the cat knocks something over, you wake up quickly, and the brain hasn't stopped pumping that chemical out. And now you're still kind of paralyzed. And your breath, you've noticed, it's hard to get a full breath. Well, because you were in a relaxed place only seconds ago. And you didn't need to have big breaths. They were shallow, low. Your heartbeat was low. But now you go into a panic mode because you feel like something's there, and that's that pressure. Well, the pressure a lot of times is anxiety. And as having been somebody who's lived through a panic attack and anxiety attacks, it can feel like you've got a concrete brick on your chest. A lot of times by just simply closing your eyes and taking 3 to 4 slow cleansing breaths, in through the nose, out through the mouth, things will loosen up. It usually lasts no more than about 15 to 20 seconds. Well, that's impossible. Mine lasted minutes. Probably not. You were probably in a very heightened state of fear. And it's like that moment when you're underwater just a second too long and you're trying to get to the top and you want to take that breath so bad, and it just seems like the top of the water just keeps getting higher and you're so close to taking that mouthful of water, and then you breach. And it's that anxiety, that fear, and you were really only under that water for an extra 2 seconds, but it felt like a millennia. So I think that that's what happens when we're in these modes of sleep paralysis. So we have to, first of all, define what the experience is. People that are sleeping on their back are most likely to have sleep paralysis. Therefore, they're most likely to have that sense of feeling like something's on their chest or in their room when they wake up too quickly. So we have to take that into effect. We also know that can be corrected with medication. So if it's supernatural, the medication should have no impact on it. We also know that people that suffer from sleep paralysis, most of them are back sleepers or nappers and might be sleeping on their side. Those people that just try to catch an hour, hour and a half during the day, a lot of those are the people that have those sleep paralysis moments as well. So I always tell people, first of all, let's rule out neurological, and I think you should have a sleep study done. But if you have a camera in your room that captures something when you're going through that moment, certainly it's something else to take into consideration. But we do have to look at the psychology of this. And sometimes, I know, Christina, it's hard to believe, not everybody wants to hear the truth, but a lot of people want to hear something that's going to make them feel better. And by me just telling you, hey, Christina, first of all, I want you to relax. This is normal. This happens to a lot of people, and this is what happens. Sometimes that's all it takes, and they never have another problem with the quote-unquote paranormal. With this woman, there was something definitely different. She woke up, she saw the figure, she felt it on her. Was it really trying to scare her? Was it trying to get her attention? Was it as surprised by her as she was of it? We capture something in the closet move. At one point, you see a hand move inside the closet when the closet door slid open. And the camera guy was right there, caught it. And we didn't even notice it until the episode aired. So it's very creepy. There was something there in that situation. But again, like I said, being good investigators, we had to go through a couple of different things with her, make sure she wasn't on sleep medications, she wasn't psychological breaks, and none of that ruled in, and she was fine. And this wasn't something that she had happen all the time. And the fact that Cindy immediately felt pulled into the room and felt something there, and we captured evidence, it's pretty compelling that there was definitely something supernatural there. As far as incubus and succubus, those are darker figures, and they're known more to have sexual encounters. And I'm trying to be respectful to your audience about how we discuss that, because I know there are a lot of trigger concepts regarding what we're about to discuss. So that's a completely different sense than just feeling like you can't catch your breath. It's sexual in context and feels forced and unwelcome. The problem with that is sometimes people start getting used to it and they allow it after a while, and they start to miss that type of activity, and that allows these darker forces to become even stronger. So it sounds really weird to say that, but that has been a case on numerous occasions that we've gone in to investigate claims of incubus and succubus, these darker, more malevolent sexual predator spirits. And there are many spirits, many people, many celebrities that have talked about it. I know everybody from Kesha to now Joy Behar just talked about it on The View recently, to Lucy Liu. Was it Mickey Rourke? I think there's been a plethora of people that claim to have had physical sexual contact with a spirit or elemental being. And that's a totally different aspect. That's not what happened to this woman. And we think that, as you see that episode play out, we think it was this poor kid, this engineer that was crushed. We think it was him. And I think it was just because he was able to get through to her. She could see and hear him. She could sense him in the house. And it was the train tracks were right behind her house. So it kind of an interesting play on exactly how it all came together.
You had said that Cindy saw a ghost enter the closet in that woman's house. What is it about closets and dark hallways that has so many ghost and monster stories attached that make children horribly afraid of them?
Again, I don't know. And I didn't say she sensed something go in the closet. She actually sensed that it went out through the wall behind the bed. And that's what Barb Fink had explained to us as well. She sensed that there was something there. And as she was doing automatic writing, the closet door slid open and surprised Cindy, surprised the hell out of our camera guy. And he panned in. And like I said, it's pitch black in there. And there's just a quick clip where you can see this hand move inside this jet black closet, nothing else. And none of the clothes are disturbed. It was very strange. Why closets? I don't know. Monsters Inc., the cartoon, tried to tell us it's just an easy portal, but all silliness aside, I don't know why under beds and closets are the places for these spirits. But I will tell you, and this will probably upset a lot of your listeners and viewers around the world, some of the most haunted places I investigate are bathrooms, people's bathrooms. They have weird experiences, and then I go in and go in their bathroom and I collect EVP, or we've caught photographs, or we've caught, different phenomena that takes place in there. So
can you go into detail on that? Why do you think bathrooms have this attachment to certain type of evil entities?
There is a cleansing effect besides dirt off our body of shower, and we're shedding a lot of our negative energy. People use it as almost a cathartic healing. Maybe sometimes that darker energy is not an outside force. Maybe it's what you've just wiped off of you. It's that bad day you had, and it's a little grumbly version of you. It's something dark and crabby and unhappy, and you get out of the bath and shower, man, I feel so much better. Yeah, maybe you've just shed that part of your skin for right now. You've shed that element, and that may draw other negative things because you're psychologically and physiologically shedding negative and dirty and gross off of you, and it may just draw, like draws like, attraction, law of attraction. So that could be it. We're also at our most vulnerable when we're in the bathroom, right? Or in bed. That's the one rule I've always had in my house. Well, the two rules: one, leave my children alone, I tell the spirits, and leave me alone when I'm in the bathroom. Those are my two big no-nos. I wish I had a reason, but again, you've got water, you've got electricity, you've got a lot of energy, you've got a lot of emotion that goes on in the bathroom. That's where we always run when we're upset or we're sick or we're having a bad day and we want to shower or shave or clean up or kind of get out of that funk. So it could just be that it's a repository for all of our garbage, and maybe we need to clear and cleanse that once in a while as well, so that we're not drawing other spiritual energy into it, because it's a feeding ground.
Incredibly interesting. So let's stay on that. In your opinion, how would you cleanse the bathroom aside from your typical Lysol, Pine Sol, and things like this? Would you bring sage, incense? What would you do to cleanse the bathroom from these entities that I guess that you bring with you to the restroom?
I would review and look into a couple of different things. Feng Shui is a really interesting form of energy shifting, and they tell you that sharp sounds, a clap using a bell, starting in the corner of the room and working your way out, you're changing the vibration, you're changing the tonality of the area. That could be part of you doing that. Smudging has never been a thing for me. I don't get it. It smells like, bad marijuana to me. And, but again, I think it's in the intention you put forth into what you're doing. And if I'm putting forth the intention to clear and make things better, then that's the intention I've set for that experience. I don't know that it works any better one thing over another. Sometimes maybe playing upbeat, cheery music, raising the vibrational level of that space after you've had an emotional or an illness or a depressive state in there. Change up the energy, play some music, sing along, get into it, get excited. Change the dynamic of the energy that you bring into it. Feng Shui in many different Eastern cultures will tell you don't have a TV in your bedroom. Don't fight in your bedroom. If you have a disagreement, take it somewhere neutral, not in your bedroom, because that just hangs in the air, that negativity, that grossness. And I think there's a lot to that. So I think we haunt ourselves a lot with what's going on. But yeah, I would give it a good scrubbing, a good cleaning, and do it to some great upbeat, happy music or something that makes you happy to change that energy of the location. And I think that's enough to at least get the ball rolling.
I have so many more questions that we only have time for one more.
Okay.
And that is, what did you experience while filming in Butte that did not make the cut on the show that really rattled you or like made you think?
Boy, I'd have to think about that. I do, and this isn't meant to be a shameless plug, but I have a video podcast on Mondays and Fridays called The Paranormal 60. And then during the run of Ghosts of Devil's Perch on Tuesday nights, I did a recap episode. So we showed some clips and talked about it with people that appeared in the episode, things that didn't make it. There were elements at every location. The Heddick house with the little boy. I wish we would have shown more of that, but out of respect for the little boy and his family, we didn't show the depth of how weird things were there and how it was impacting and affecting the child, because some of it was very inappropriate. Nothing that the parents were doing, but the spirit realm. We had experiences in each one of those locations that impacted and affected us in different ways. The Hennessy Mansion episode, which I think is episode 3, I did the Gansfield Estes method, which was new to me, and coming right off of the Cabbage Patch was probably not a smart move because I'd already been so deeply impacted and affected. And I really wish that the audio that I was hearing would have been played through to the audience. That's my wish. I was hearing what sounded like the screams of 1,000 people dying. And then there was this creepy male voice that was just taunting me through it and threatening. And then hearing a child's voice, who I believe was the little boy that had died. There were so many elements to that I wish you could have heard, but in another way, I'm glad you didn't, because it was so traumatic. I'm a year removed from that experience, and there are still nights I can hear those screams echo in my head, and it's really unnerving. But like I said, if people would like to go check out the Paranormal 60, you can scroll back through those videos on YouTube and check out the recap on each episode. If you watch the Ghost of Devil's Perch on Discovery Plus and get a chance to revisit those cases afterwards with some of the other people that were in the episodes talking about how it affected and impacted them. But overall, I'm pleased with the fact that we were able to help everybody that we went in to deal with, and hopefully the spirit realm as well.
Dave, thank you so much for being on Shifting the Paradigm once again. We can find you on Paranormal 60, your website, but where else can people look for you and YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube is the best place to find my video versions, and wherever you listen to your audio podcasts, you can find the Paranormal 60. I'm on Facebook under Darkness Radio Dave, and you can find me on Twitter, the Dave Schrader. I'm on Instagram, official Dave Schrader. So I'm all over the place, but keep up with me. You can also check out darknessevents.com for all the cool locations we're going to be visiting and find which ones you can join me on. So if you want to have the adventure of a lifetime, we only have, I think, 4 spots left open to go with me to Egypt. We'll be investigating a few of the pyramids. We get access to Howard Carter's home for the 100th anniversary of the opening of King Tut's tomb. We get to do and experience some really remarkable things this next year, and I'm excited to take that ride. And I hope to see you, Christina, and I hope some of your viewers may tune in and join in with me as well on my journey.
That would be super awesome. Dave, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me again, and stay safe.
You're listening to the UNX Network, KUNX-DB, Kansas City, Missouri.
Dave always opens my eyes to the paranormal with his answers. All of his social media links are below in the description box. Check out my website at strangeparadigms.com to catch all of these show archives in video and podcast formats, along with guest appearances and all of my social media links, such as Discord, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and more. Follow me on Twitter at eyes_on_the_skies to catch all of my updates and news. I want to wish you all a wonderful week. Please like this video or podcast on your platform of choice and share it with those who have the same interest. Subscribe if you haven't already, because there's a lot more great shows coming to you soon. Be safe, and remember, keep your eyes on the skies.